Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Real Talk, our campus weekly video series where we discuss relationships, empathy, advocacy, and life. All of our episodes are pre-recorded, released every Tuesday at 5 p.m. on our Instagram and our Facebook page via YouTube link. And we're really excited for today's episode. We're going to be talking about online dating, and especially during like the life of COVID, I guess is the way to describe it, and boundaries, how to talk about boundaries kind of when you're beginning to date online and things like that. So it was funny, like thinking about where to start with this conversation. I was thinking about that like evolution of online dating of like years ago when I first heard about online dating, it was like Match.com or eHarmony, kind of like, which are still prominent today, but I think it was more so for like populations that were looking for serious relationships, looking for commitments, looking for like marriage, and just looking for that like perfect match. Whereas I feel like it's evolved, particularly in the last decade-ish, maybe less. I don't know. I feel old.
I was thinking about that. I was like, we're gonna really like date ourselves a little. I think
a little. But yeah, like of how it's turned into like casual dating, hooking up, like, you know, whether it's like for sex or for like just hanging out with like seeing where it can go, to also looking for a relationship and things. And then there's even like Bumble started the like BFF Bumble or whatever. Yeah, which is kind of funny and cool.
Well, and I think too, like just in speaking of the evolution of it all, when I first like remember learning about online dating like Match.com or eHarmony, it was also for people who are older, like not college students or even high school students or whatever. Like that was not a thing.
Right.
I remember first learning about dating apps like Tinder or whatever it was in college, like, and being like, what? Like what's happening here? And it was like serious relationships people were looking for, like marriage or whatever, versus like just hooking up or having sex or whatever. Like it was almost like one extreme or the other.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there was like stigmas attached to dating online, and there was like stereotypes to it, and even the different apps between like Grindr and Tinder and Bumble and like all, even like Plenty of Fish, like the random one, like there's so
many about that one.
There's like dozens and dozens and dozens out there, but each of them have their own, I guess, like personality. It's almost like people think, oh, if you're on this app, you're looking for just casual sex. If you're on this app, you're looking for a relationship. And then even the things you can put in your bio, like the different messages you put out there, the pictures that you decide, like say a lot about maybe what you're looking for, which is just fascinating. Like it's such a weird newish way of dating. It's like almost you're vetting the people before you're going out with them.
I'm realizing too that like, speaking of like dating ourselves or whatever, like in terms of age, not like dating ourselves, but students that we're talking to probably have only been dating since online dating was like a real thing, and like that was what people did. Like in high school, that was not a thing. Like nobody that I knew that at all. It's like I said before, started when I was in college, but it would be safe to say, I think that like most freshmen, like that since they've been thinking about dating, online dating has been an option.
That
makes sense. We look for feedback all the time. So if I'm
tell us if we're old and totally no, it's true. And I think too, when I think of online dating, like the apps, when I was single years ago and was using it, it was because I wasn't meeting people in my space or like in my community or whatever. And I think that's what a lot of people are using now is like, particularly, I don't know. I'd be curious to know if high schoolers are using it, because I think it's more so for people who are like maybe in a new community, or like for college students, it's like they don't know everybody who's around. So, and you can change your radius and things like that. Like
if you move to a new city, it's a good way to get connected to people.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think it brings up a good question of like, even just when I was thinking about like the bio and the pictures and things, like I remember like, obviously the first thing I think of is like the insane amount of sexual harassment that happens, right, on dating apps, of like how many people of all identities get disgusting messages, like really demeaning, objectifying, degrading, and like some people, you know, try to come up with like clever pickup lines or whatever when they're first initiating that conversation, and they can either be funny and clever and cool and they work, or disgusting and demoralizing, you know, like
that might
or, like right off the bat sending like nudes or something, you know,
or just horrifically graphic like messages, like not even pictures, but like just like words or whatever, that like, might even deter someone from going back on the app.
Yeah, right, especially for someone who, even if someone is looking for casual sex or hooking up or whatever, they're not looking for something serious or monogamous or whatever,
right,
it's still not okay to talk to people
right
in a gross way.
And make them feel dirty, like, and just like, oh, ooh, like this is a weird thing. Even like you said, even if you are looking for sex, like there's ways to make that happen in a respectful, like kind, just respectful conversation, I think.
Right. You know? Yeah. Respect is key, right? Of like, because I know we wanted to talk about boundaries within online dating and everything, but I think that like something that popped in my head too is when, you know, I know we're going to talk about like how to decide when you feel safe meeting in person, what that may look like, especially during times of COVID, and we'll get to that. But I was even thinking of like, maybe you don't know what you're looking for yet. And maybe it's not in your profile of like, I'm looking for a commitment or I'm looking for a relationship versus I'm looking for a hookup. And you do meet someone and you're trying to figure that out. And we're going to have, I know, an episode on like defining relationships and like how to figure that out. So that will be a good, you know, connection with this episode too. But respect, right? Just like respect that person's feelings, or respect where they're at. Like, you may not be in the same place and you may not be looking for the same thing, and that's okay.
And I think too, like, respect yourself enough to know that like you don't have to put up with the degrading text messages, or like that you're allowed to change your mind if you say like, oh, I'm looking for this, and then something's different. Like, you're allowed to have thoughts and feelings and opinions and whatever about the way people are treating you, even if it's online, and like you don't have to put up with stuff if you don't want to. And I know, like, for me, when I was like online dating or whatever, like I had a really hard time feeling like comfortable doing it or talking to people, or like even just letting people know that I was doing it. Like, it's okay to like, you know, feel that it's worth being respected in that space, and like for your choice to date online.
Yeah, I think I'm so glad you said that piece about like respecting yourself, and also like you still deserve to be treated with respect in every single space that you're in. And I feel like that's especially true for, like, let's say you are on one of the apps that's kind of known for hookups or whatever. And I think this is a huge, I mean, we can have a whole other episode just on the sexual harassment that exists, but I think about all of the like Tinder nightmares, you know, like I follow that on Instagram, and they can be really funny, but sometimes I read them and I'm cringing because I'm like, that language is predatory. That language is violent. And like the response, particularly, I think, when like even thinking about people in vulnerable communities or marginalized communities, how they're fetishized and like objectified, and the amount of like stereotypical harmful comments of like, you're my fantasy, right? Or like, you're so hot and I want you, or whatever, but putting it in language that's really like, even if it's maybe starting off okay, but then that person says like, I'm not interested, and however they say that, the response sometimes to the rejection can be more violent, even, of like, well, you're ugly anyway, and like just really like
I've had
nasty, you know.
Yes, and I've had conversations with people about that, right? Like about, well, I'd rather just let them keep sending me those awful messages or those disgusting pictures or whatever, than say like, please stop, because I'm afraid of like what the response might be, kind of thing. And I think you and I have talked about it in a ton of episodes, like in a dating relationship that's in person, right? You get to say like, oh, I'm not comfortable with that, or like, oh, I don't want to hear that, or like, I don't want you to speak to me that way, or that makes me uncomfortable, when in whatever kind of conversation. Online dating is online dating, and you get to express those opinions there too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think in terms of like times of COVID too, I've heard from a lot of people that it's actually maybe one of the only good things that has come out of it is that we have been able to practice boundaries in so many new ways. And that generally, hopefully, it's like universally accepted that like, oh, I don't feel safe going to that party or gathering because of COVID, like, or, you know, oh, let's, you know, if we're going to go on a hike together, like, let's wear our masks and stay a distance or whatever. Like, there's just so many more conversations around boundaries because of the pandemic, that it does actually give a cool kind of unique opportunity to bring those up in relationships, particularly because people aren't necessarily meeting in bars or at parties like they might normally be doing. So they are meeting online. So then how does that translate into like safety and boundaries when you're online dating now versus always, you know?
Exactly. And I think too, as you were saying that, it's making me think of like, let's meet up for a hike and wear our masks and whatever. It's like a really awesome intro to like the conversation around consent about like sexual activity that could take place in the relationship, because you're already used to discussing, I'm okay with this, you're okay with that, what if we tried this, what about this for next time or whatever. And you're right, I've had those conversations too with so many people that are like, it's giving me the opportunity to not feel bad about setting a boundary about like, oh, I don't feel comfortable with you coming over or just dropping by because COVID, right? Like you don't even have to explain anything.
Right, just period.
Just done.
Yeah.
And I think too, it's cool to see, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've seen commercials on TV and stuff. A lot of the dating apps have kind of shifted and added things in to allow for stuff to be dating to happen easier, like during the pandemic. Like
that's cool.
Like I know, what was it? I think it was Match or eHarmony. I saw a commercial the other day on like Hulu or something, and they were like, they've updated the features to involve like a video chat. Like you have to video chat before you go out and meet that person. Which is good because you can get, they were saying like you can get the person's vibe and like if you're going to get along.
Right, like is there chemistry even, like let alone safety.
Exactly. And like it allows for an extra step to be put in place before, because of the pandemic, like safety wise. But I think even if that were to feature stays, it should. Like, check in with someone first, because that's always so anxiety provoking.
Totally. I think that's and that was one of the pieces about boundaries we wanted to talk about, was like when to decide when you're ready to meet in person, and how outside of the pandemic that can be really stressful, like, and some people like really want to get to know that person, maybe talk to them more before they meet them. Other people are like, I need to know if we even have that kind of chemistry, so I want to see them in person first, or like right away.
Some people,
I think it's like going back to what you were saying before of like respecting yourself, like knowing your own comfort levels, and like not feeling like you have to adjust your comfort for the sake of the other person's comfort. Like, and if someone is doing that right off the bat, like pressuring you to meet up sooner or not respecting your boundaries, like
trying to convince you otherwise,
like that's a huge red flag to begin with. So like if you're starting to talk to somebody online who you think is cute, whatever, and they're already pushing you to meet in person, or like questioning your like decisions of like, well, why don't you want to just do this, or like, why can't we just meet up, or whatever it may be, that alone is maybe a sign that like this may not be the right person for you, if you're not already from the beginning respecting your boundaries.
Right. And I think we talk about like on the other end of it, right? If somebody's telling you like, I'm not comfortable just yet going out or going here or going there, if somebody isn't like super duper excited about it, it's probably a no, that they don't want to do that right now. Just like we talked about with consent and stuff, like anything short of like a absolutely yes, I'm excited, like let's do this, is no. But those boundaries can change over time as people get more comfortable, as you get to know someone. It's okay to check in about when to meet up. But it is interesting, I think, what you were saying before about like the different vibe that each different dating app has, or dating site. And I know there's some that have like Christian Mingle, or there's other like religious like associated apps and stuff like that have different kinds of vibes going, like with what like people on this site are looking for this versus that, like how they're marketed kind of is different. But across the board, your boundaries matter, you know, no matter which app you're on.
Right. Yeah. And I think too, like I talk to students all the time when I'm teaching about healthy relationships and dating abuse, about like, what do you value in a relationship? Like, what are the things that are important to you? And obviously this is assuming that the person going on the apps is looking for a relationship. It may be different, because I think boundaries are important whether it's relationship or hooking up. Right. And I think like, if you're looking for a relationship on these apps, it might be helpful to like sit down and think like to yourself, what is important to me? What are the things that I value? What are my deal breakers? What are the things that if this pops up, I'm out? Like, I'm not going to tolerate that, or that's not going to like jive with me, whatever it is. Exactly. And then for hooking up, if you're interested in the casual hookups or whatever it might be, like also being able to recognize, I guess, signs of disrespect maybe, or like, because it's hard to know, obviously, if someone's going to just like outright be disrespectful, but like going back to what you were saying in the beginning, I feel like that's the biggest, most important message of just respecting yourself and knowing what you deserve, and knowing that you don't deserve to be treated with like disrespect or unkindness or like any of those other behaviors that we see, unfortunately, a lot online.
Totally. And I think too, like, I don't know why or what it is about today that makes me keep going back to consent, but like being on a dating app that's associated with just hooking up, or saying, you know, this is what I'm looking for, I'm just looking to have casual sex or whatever, it's not consent, right? Like, it is important to know that on either end. Like, if you are going on the dating app saying this is what I'm looking for, you're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to meet up with this person and be in person with them under the assumption that you guys are going to have sex, and change your mind. Like, if you're not feeling it.
And on the other,
And on the other side of it, like, if someone has said that to you, that's what they're looking for, like, they are allowed to change their mind.
Don't get mad. Don't get offended. Don't make them feel bad. Don't make them do it, right? Like, just respect it.
Like, you're not entitled to have sex with that person just because they swiped left or right. I don't know.
Whichever one it is.
You know, so like, that's an important message to take away. You know, feel entitled to be respected for your decisions that you're making with online dating, whether that's to be on the app, and if somebody judges you for that, that's not cool, or whether it's to just have casual sex or to look for a serious relationship. Like, you get to decide what you want to do with your time.
Yeah, 100%. And know that there are resources, like you can report inappropriate behavior or like sexual harassment or any of that type of behavior on those apps. And like, we're obviously a resource, like if you want to talk it out. And like, I think that's the other important piece is like, particularly speaking for us, like, we're not going to judge you if you come to us and say like, I was on this app because I was looking to hook up. Like, we're not going to be like, wow, you know, like, that cool, do your thing, but like, practice consent and respect. And like, particularly in COVID, like, talk about how to stay safe. Like, if you are looking for, like we were talking in the beginning sort of about, you know, maybe it's the boundary is, I only want to meet up with you if we both can get tested for COVID. And like, if we can both practice like safe measures, like, you know, whatever that might be. And I do think it's a perfect way to practice that, like, consent conversation, and like, see how they respond, you know, like if they're like, no, I don't want to wear a mask, or no, I don't want to meet with you there, or whatever, that's maybe already an indicator that they're not going to respect your body, right, and the things that you want to do sexually or physically. So pay attention to those things. But I think having those conversations, particularly around COVID, of like, how can I stay safe for my physical health, right, in addition to like safe with you, this new person in this new environment.
Right. And be excited about it, right? How can I be excited about what's going on in the same way you might get excited if somebody approached you when you were out, you know, and tried to initiate something. So I think that is something to be excited about, something to pay attention to and notice. And I think like the last thing that I wanted to share too was, Cara and I obviously started Real Talk because we're friends and we want to talk about these things. So dating is like a thing that we talk about all the time. Like, these are conversations that we have, and like all the different online dating or like meeting someone in person or who knows. And I think talk with your friends, right? If you have that kind of support system about what you're experiencing online and like, what are you noticing on this app versus that one? Like, it's okay to have those conversations with people when you feel safe to have them. And it can be fun to talk about that kind of stuff. But like, if you feel funny or feel like something was weird, like process it with someone, talk to your friend about it, or like share exciting stories about like, dating in the time of COVID. What does that look like? I'm sure people are more lonely than they've been because of the pandemic. And like, it's exciting to hear about the good stuff too. So I think that's kind of a cool thing. And it's always exciting to share that with your friend.
Yeah. And if you don't feel safe or comfortable sharing it with your friends, we're here. We will not judge. We will not like, scold or like whatever. Like, we are here to listen. We're here to help navigate those new waters. If maybe dating on the apps is new to you, like this has just been something you've started because of COVID, because you're looking to connect, like please don't hesitate to reach out to us for support or to like process or figure it out, like if you're looking into it. And if it may be friends and us or both or whatever, I just know that you don't have to figure it all out by yourself.
No, definitely. I think that goes back to the thing we kind of always talk about in terms of like, it doesn't have to be crisis level for people to come and get support from us, right? If you want to talk about like, is this healthy? Is this weird? Is this okay? Is this whatever? Or like, you want to just talk about the good stuff? Like, we're here. It's cool. And then kind of in conjunction with that, right, if you have any thoughts or reactions to this episode today, feel free to reach out, share them with us. You can comment below, you can send us emails, you can reach out to us over the phone. And also if you have suggestions on topics for us to talk about, we're always looking for that stuff. So again, I said, you can email us, you can call us, and you can find us on Instagram and Facebook. But please share with your friends. Thanks for joining us today, and stay tuned for next week's episode.
Yay! Stay safe, wear a mask.
Yeah, wear a mask.